particularly about how money is seen in Japan versus in the United States.
Hey there! こんにちは。アーサーです。今回の動画ではあなたの英語のリスニングを鍛えるためのネイティブ同士の会話をお届けしたいと思います。今回の会話は42分もあるので、もともと散歩の動画に分けたのですが、最後にあなたのリスニングをきっちり鍛えるためにこの動画を公開しました。生の世界で実際に使える英語力を身につける鍵は、学習のための英語コンテンツではなく、コミュニケーション、意思疎通のためのネイティブ向きのコンテンツを使うことです。で、そのため、学習のために作られた会話ではなく、僕とアメリカ人の友達のオースティンとの本当に生の会話を The Austin and Arthur Show という別の YouTube チャンネルでお届けしています。ただそのチャンネルでは字幕がなくてちょっとハードルが高いですね。そこで定期的に字幕付きの動画をこちらのチャンネルでシェアしています。日本語と英語の字幕が両方ついているので、ぜひ自分のリスニングと自分の理解度のために使ってください。Anyways, let's get started.But
what's our main topic for today?
Money. And
money.
Yeah, I always think of ABBA. Money.
So
it's funny.
So the first thing we need to talk about first is what's the hand signal for money in America? This, right?
Yeah.
And in Japan? This. And what does this mean in America?
Okay.
Okay, or it can mean asshole. Okay.
Yeah, but at least where I'm from, you never see.
Really?
You never see.
Because when I was in school, people would do this as like a joke because it's a,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, when you wanted to be offensive and you just give them the finger.
Yeah, that's true. Thanks, man. Anyways, so we're going to be talking about money, particularly about how money is seen in Japan versus in the United States.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I think I want to start this off with talking about a stereotype that I think a lot of Japanese people hold for specifically Americans when it comes to money. They think that Americans don't care about money and are not responsible.
With money.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and how do you feel about that? What's the truth of that?
So I think, I definitely feel like I can understand where that's coming from. I mean, I don't think it's true, first of all, but I think I can understand where they would get that because I think the type of person moving to Japan from America, I think doesn't follow the traditional like immigrant persona.
Okay.
Right? And what do I mean by that? So let's talk about a person coming to America, like from another country. Usually they're coming there for the purpose of building a better life. They're coming from nothing and they're trying to make themselves. Well, specifically a lot of Americans moving here are not struggling financially. They're not struggling. They're not trying to necessarily build a better life by coming to Japan. They're coming here for the experience.
Yeah.
So when a lot of Americans come over here, they spend money very frivolously on a lot of stuff. Like, I'm going on this trip. I'm going partying every weekend. I'm going and having fun. I'm spending all my money. Oh, I'm broke. That's okay. Like it's very much like kind of very carefree attitude. And I think that from a Japanese perspective, they tend to look at Americans like, dude, what? Do you guys just not save money?
Yeah.
Like, do you not care about money?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I feel like the way that people think about money is fundamentally different, and I think in Japan it's more common for people to save money, and in the States it's more common for people to use money. And by use, I don't necessarily mean spend. That also includes investing.
Yeah.
And up until recently, there hasn't been much investing in Japan.
Yeah.
Now it's starting to pick up with the NISA and everything.
Yeah.
Which, dude, I'm telling you, if you haven't done it, even just $50 a month, $100 a month, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
After a few years. But one way that this really kind of hit me is with credit cards.
Yes.
When I came to Japan, and I got my first credit card. I hated it. Well, I still actually hate credit cards here, but
yeah,
because sorry, I'm going to sneeze.
Okay.
No, so like, how do American credit cards work normally?
Well, normally, I don't know how they work normally. I'm just going to describe how American credit cards work. So, how Americans view credit cards is we're trying to build up our line of credit, which a line of credit is basically, you have this like number rating that you're given by a bank, and basically the higher number, the better access to loans.
Yeah, it's
for
like your
housing.
reputation.
Yeah, it's like your financial reputation,
Yeah.
right? And so we're taught this from a very young age that you should get a credit card as soon as you're 18 and responsibly spend it every month.
Yeah. Do you know what your credit score is?
No, I haven't looked in years.
Okay.
Like I haven't had any reason to ever need
Oh, yeah,
one.
right. I still look at my credit score
Do you?
just because it's still ingrained in
I'm
me.
sure my credit is terrible.
Yeah. I mean, well, if you don't use it at all, then you
Yeah.
have zero credit. You have
Oh,
zero
it's
credit
probably
score,
zero then.
Yeah.
But I've always been really against, personally,
Yeah.
I've never wanted credit cards because
Yeah.
I don't trust myself.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like-
And also, I would say
Yeah.
American credit cards are especially dangerous because
Yeah.
in America, the way that most credit cards work is you have a spending limit. Let's say it's $5,000.
Yep.
And you can use that card as much as you want up until you get to that limit. And then at the end, when it turns into a new month, you have a balance.
Yeah.
And for most American credit cards, they offer you to either pay the minimum balance, the minimum payment, the whole balance, or you can set your payment in between.
Yeah.
But most credit cards in Japan, you have to pay the balance off.
Yep.
Every time. You have to pay it off. Otherwise, you're going to get a fee, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I found out that actually the original credit cards in the United States, the Diners Club cards, worked that way too.
Oh,
and
really?
it was only Visa that kind of changed the system.
Okay.
And the American credit card system is much more for people who are looking to invest or to maybe get into debt for something in the future. Whereas the Japanese credit card system is much more for, I want to save. Like I'm not actually going to build up debt. I'm going to get rid of it every month. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think even like you can even kind of go into like credit card culture, like with the United States and Japan. So nowadays, America is predominantly considered a cashless society.
Yeah.
You can go to the middle of America and like some small podunk town, and I guarantee you, basically anywhere you go will at the very minimum have a credit card reader, right? Most places will have different forms of currency that you can use, and in fact, it's actually fairly common at this point to run into places that don't accept cash, right?
Yeah, like you can't even pay with cash.
Yes, yeah, they will not accept cash. That's actually like becoming fairly common at this point. Whereas in Japan, it's the complete opposite. It's improved over the past couple years, but like even like 10 years ago, like it was really hard to go to restaurants and pay with card.
Yeah.
Like you could go to a high-end restaurant or just like a really popular restaurant in the middle of Tokyo, and they would say, sorry, we only accept cash.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And like you said, it is changing now, but still it's more like that. What I find interesting though is I see more and more stores that say we don't accept credit card, but we accept denshi money. We accept e-money, right?
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm thinking they both must have fees. Like, why are you choosing one instead of the other?
Yeah, it's so crazy to me.
If anyone knows the answer to that, please let me know, because this is one of the things I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
But thinking about also how people spend money and how people think about money. And I'm sure, this is a huge general brush we're painting with, because you have different socioeconomic levels, and inside everyone thinks about money differently. But I would say that in Japan, in the US too, people are concerned about low prices and get something if it's cheap.
Yeah.
But I feel like in Japan, people are much more unabashed about, oh, it's cheap, so I'm going to get it. Like that's like, I feel like in the States, it's like, oh, it's cheap, but I want it because it's cheap. Maybe I shouldn't get it, but I'm going to get it anyways. Whereas in Japan, it's like cheap, getting it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And I think that my opinion, I feel like that kind of comes from like post-war Japan. Like the 50s and 60s, where it's like people just didn't have much access to resources. So you kind of just like, if you saw a good deal on something, you picked it up, even if you didn't need it right now, because you'll need it in the future. And that's, you definitely see that mentality if you visit a lot of people's homes here, where they have like these hoarder mentalities, where it's like their house is just packed with stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't really see that in the US.
Yeah. I mean, so there are hoarders in the United States that keep on buying stuff. But that's normally a sign of mental illness.
Yeah, it's not
depression.
like a cultural thing.
Yeah, whereas here's much more cultural. Yeah. And another thing that kind of I wanted to talk about today about this topic is people's obsession with points.
Oh yeah, they're like, it's like points cards are a thing here.
Yeah.
And like people are very like into them.
Yeah, like so I'm not trying to talk down on my wife because these are just simply value differences, but just the amount of time she spends focusing on points. I need to get points. I'm trying to get points. Hey, Arthur, did you use this coupon? Because you can get 0.5% more points.
Yeah.
I'm going to get all these points. Like so much of the day is spent about, well, not so much recently, but for a long time, so much was focused on, let's get these points. And in Japan too, it's something that doesn't... I don't understand this because in the United States, they have point systems too, but it's always tied to your credit card. So when you pay, you get points because you spent money. But in Japan, like with the T card, the Tsutaya card, the T card, you can go to a place, you can scan your card, pay with cash, you still get points.
Yeah.
It's like, what is that? I don't understand that.
Dude, I don't get it either, man. It's really crazy, but people are like really into it here.
Yeah.
And the thing that really blows my mind about this is how many different kinds of points cards there are here.
Yeah.
Like with the US, it's like you kind of mentioned it with like they're mostly tied to credit cards.
Yeah. So it's not like the store will give you points.
Yeah.
The card will give you points.
Yeah. And so like that's like the main avenue with it. But like here in Japan, it's like, dude, it's not uncommon to have like 6 or 8 different cards.
Yeah.
Like for different places that you go to.
Yeah. Well, it's like when I went to like McDonald's the other day or something, like they said, point card mochi desu ka? And I looked down and they had the D point, R point, and the EDY points or something like that. I don't even know. Is that Rakuten? No, that's not Rakuten. I don't know what that is. But it's just like these things, and it's like, okay, so we're gathering these points, but what I'm thinking in my mind is you're gathering all these points.
Yeah.
But they're spread so thin amongst all these cards. It's like I have $5 here and $5 there. Like I would rather have $10 on one card than $5 here and $5 there.
That's fair.
What's it like at your house? Your
family? I would say my wife and I tend to buy most of our stuff online.
Okay.
I don't think either of us really go out shopping all that much. The only exceptions, like if we're going and getting stuff for my daughter, we'll go to like Akachan Hompo.
Yeah.
And so we have a points card for that, right?
Yeah.
But like most of the stuff I buy is off Amazon, and then my wife will buy off Amazon, and then like like a Japanese version of Amazon.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what it is, but so it's like we have points associated with that, but it's very like focused.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're the typical household.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's it's just you have like this obsession with points, and it's funny because when my sister was here just a couple weeks ago, she when she visited me and we walked around. So where I live in a new town, right? I live in a bedroom community, whatever you want to call it, where there are lots of malls.
Yeah,
and they have nice play areas for the kids that you can use for free. So we go to the malls a lot. I remember my sister Alex was saying, yeah, you guys go to like malls a lot. Your life really kind of centers around malls, doesn't it? And then she said later on another day, she said, man, Japan's really got materialism kind of down pat, There's ads for everything, so much stuff about money, saving points and buying cheap stuff. Like Like consumerism. It was consumerism.
Yeah.
Like Japan's got consumerism down pat compared to like the United States, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I would say like Japan has perfected consumerism.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Like everything is monetized, everything is advertised here, and they're very, very effective at it.
Yeah. Yeah. When I first got here, the thing that really shocked me was when you go on the trains, just the sheer number of advertisements, at least in Tokyo, right?
Yeah.
You have, of course, so like in Seattle on the buses and on the trains, you have the advertisements in the corners up there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Now they're TVs on like the main lines in Tokyo, you know?
Yeah.
But they also have them on the walls.
Yeah.
They have them on the windows.
Yeah.
And they have them on like the handlebar things that you hold on to.
So going back to our topic of like, you know, money culture, it's really interesting what people view as wasteful in Japan versus what they view as wasteful in the US.
Okay, yeah, I want to hear this.
So I think it's really common specifically for Americans to view comfort-based expenses as not wasteful.
Like for example,
so
what?
Like here's an example. I ride the green car on the Tokaido line. So the green car is like a luxury car.
Yeah.
It
get
costs,
your own seat.
Yeah, you get your own seat. It's a recliner. I mean, you're allowed to drink anywhere on the train, but culturally, it's acceptable to drink and like snack and like kind of like just kind of have your own space in that train, in that area of the train. But it is expensive, right? It costs like 700 yen, which is like the equivalent like $4 or $5 on top of a train ticket to get access to this car. And a lot of people here in Japan view that as very wasteful, right? Whereas I think Americans, when I tell them that, they're like, "Oh, you get your own space, though." Like, I get it.
That's
like,
great. Yeah.
No, I totally understand why you do that. Like, you don't want to be in a crowded train. You want your own little area. And it's like, yeah. And so, like, Americans will view that as like, oh, it's expensive, but I'm working on having a space for my mental health. So it's a comfort expense, but like it's fine. Whereas like something that I think many Americans will not view as many Americans will view as wasteful that I think many Japanese people won't is like selectively picking meats.
What do you mean?
So here like do you have like little meat areas around your house?
Yeah.
Do you go and try and choose the best quality meat all the time, or do you just kind of?
I mean, so my wife does the shopping. I don't know the details about that.
All right, fair enough. So we have like shopping centers around here, right? And instead of picking like the highest quality stuff, we'll usually pick for like, you know, what tastes good, but like that we won't really try to get premium stuff, right?
Okay, yeah.
And sorry, I'm a little drunk. I mean the exact opposite.
Okay.
I mean the exact opposite. We'll try
I was waiting to the end. Okay.
We'll try to go get the premium stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll specifically go out of our way to get like good tasting, nice, high quality stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas I think in the US it's like you kind of just like go and just get what's available.
Yeah.
Like in the local. I mean, you'll get some people who are like, oh, I only shop at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's and I only get premium stuff. But that's a very small percentage of people that does that.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the people who care about their foods, there's a lot higher percentage of people who care about their food in Japan than the US.
That's true. You know, it's funny that you mentioned that because, you know, when my sister, I'm not trying to pick on my sister because she reminded me of how a lot of things in the United States are because I don't live there anymore. But my mom was also like this too. Yeah. When they came over and we had a meal that did not have meat or had very little meat.
Yeah.
And my sister was saying, "Where's the protein?"
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, I want to eat some protein." And like in the States, it's very common to refer to meat as protein. Hey, pick your like on the menu. Hey, pick your protein. You want chicken, pork, beef? Yeah. It's like it's not protein. It's I mean, it is protein, but it's food, you know?
Yeah.
And that I feel like in the United States, people have really kind of boiled down food to like a science and numbers, and so it's all the same, which is why, hey, I can get more protein for a lower price, so why would I care? You know, whereas in Japan, it's not like that.
Yeah. So I think like if you kind of really simplify things, like they're both comfort picks, right?
Yeah.
Riding the green car, picking like really high quality food. You don't have to do it. You do it because it makes you feel better.
Yeah.
Right. But it's interesting what is considered as like wasteful, like waste of money compared to the US and Japan.
Yeah. I would say though, I think in both cultures, something that they have in common is that it's impolite to talk about money.
Yes. But in different ways.
Okay. I want to hear this.
So like in the US, it's okay to talk about your salary with somebody who doesn't share the same work as you. Like specifically work in the same business as you. Yeah. Like, you know, if you and I are talking, it's like, oh man, you know, my salary is this, you know, how much are you making? Like that will happen. But something that you will never see is two coworkers talking about their salary.
Now though, that's starting to change a little bit because people want to get paid more. So they want to try to balance.
So the reason for that is because, salaries are a negotiable thing in the US.
Yeah.
Which they kind of are in Japan, but not really, right? It's very much like in most companies, you have a very fixed salary based off of your job and how long you've gone there. So like pretty much everyone's getting paid the same. And people are much more open to talk about their salaries here in Japan. What is something that you think in Japan that people aren't really okay with talking about?
No, it's just like, I don't know. I feel like, well, if you're talking with friends, then that's okay. But just in general, you know, you don't want to like I don't really hear people talking about how much money something costs unless they're trying to brag or they're with really good friends.
Okay.
What I do remember is like many years ago, I made a video about topics you should not talk about in the United States, and one of them was don't talk about money.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, it was don't talk about religion, politics, money.
Yep.
And don't talk about someone's relationship status. So if you're a stranger.
Sure.
Yeah. Hey, you married?
Yeah.
No, you don't talk about that.
Yeah.
And I remember I listed those 4 topics and I got a lot of comments saying, oh, it's the same in Japan. So maybe there's just a...
Yeah. It feels like a lot of those kind of fall under the same in Japan, but it just feels like they're interpreted differently though. Right? Because we kind of mentioned where it's like, it's kind of okay to talk about your salary here in Japan, where maybe it's not okay to talk about how much stuff costs.
Yeah.
Whereas like in America, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
People happily talk about, oh yeah, I paid like $500 for this.
Yeah, you're right.
You know,
right.
The people don't care about that. But like something that I think of, when I, like living here, and I don't know if your experience is the same, but I've noticed that people don't talk about loans.
Yeah.
Like
that's true. People don't talk about loans.
Yeah. So that's kind of weird to me because I think as strange as it is, I feel like Americans are very open.
Yeah.
When they're talking about loans, like, oh yeah, I took out a loan to buy this car.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You know? I financed it.
Yeah. I financed my house. Like, I think it's like Americans are they feel very comfortable talking about debt.
Yeah. I think it goes back to the whole debt thing.
Yeah.
You know, this drives back to like Japan very much is a saving culture.
Yeah.
And America is much more of a debt culture.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think it's very common to pay in cash, not specifically paying cash. When I use the term pay in cash, I mean pay the full price for something here in Japan. Like people will save up money until they can basically pay off a car or pay off a good chunk of a house.
Yeah. I heard that like 40% of Americans don't have enough money in savings to pay for like a $4,000 emergency or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but that sounds
that means
right.
like 40% of Americans have less than $4,000 in savings.
Yeah.
You know? Which I think in Japan, people save a lot more. You know?
I think that's true.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely true. I think basically everyone I know outside of like people who aren't working has probably saved up about $10,000. I think that's it, like at a bare minimum.
Yeah. At a bare minimum.
I remember I was talking with an old acquaintance of mine. When I met him when I was doing homestay here in Japan, and
Is he the guy I met at your wedding?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He's been in Japan for like 55 years.
Wow.
Right. I think it's 55. So he's been here for a long time. And when he first met his wife, so his wife is a nurse, and when he first met his wife, and they got married, and they decided to open up a shared bank account and share all their finances. She had saved $120,000.
Wow.
And like I don't remember how much he said he had saved up at the time, but it was like not close to that.
Yeah.
Because like he's coming from kind of like more similar to my background. He's coming from like an English teacher moving over to from the US to Japan. And she had saved up $120,000, which a nurse job pays pretty well.
Yeah.
Like it's a nice job, but like, so basically you talk with her and it was just like, why do you have so much money? Did you get this from your parents? She's like, no, I don't spend money.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And that's like such a weird concept for an American to really think about. Cause it's like, we don't even, I would say Japanese people tend to travel more than Americans do. But Americans, like our daily life, we spend way more money.
I feel like, I think the cost of living in America is higher for sure, especially just going out to eat is a lot more expensive.
I wouldn't even say it has necessarily like much to do with like the cost of living, but just like the daily decision making.
Okay. Oh yeah. So they choose.
So like more. Americans, I'll give you an example, right? Americans going to Starbucks.
Yeah. Every day.
Yes, every day going to Starbucks, getting like these little things, like just buying snacks. Like, you know what? I think I'm gonna buy a snack on the way home. Like making those small decisions. I think Americans tend to do a lot more than Japanese do.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, it goes into this a concept of I need to save enough money because I may lose my money, so I need to save it.
Yeah.
Whereas in the States, it's like, hey, got to use your money.
Yeah.
Either like I remember someone said, you need to make your money work for you, and they were talking about putting it in investments, right? And yeah, for a long time, Japan didn't have like a strong investment scheme like they have in the United States. Like IRAs weren't a thing until recently.
Yep.
So you didn't really have much of a push to invest, but now you're seeing that a lot more.
Yeah, and I feel like Americans tend to look at their money as a form of fun.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think that mentality is shared in Japan.
Yeah.
Like, so in a perfect example is gambling.
Okay.
Gambling's huge in the US. You can go to casinos, like every city has casinos, and you could make the argument that Japan has gambling too, with like pachinko, but like really it's not. Like
it's not the type of people who go to pachinko is like a set type of person.
Yeah, and it's like the mentality here is like a person who goes to pachinko, they're kind of viewed as like having a mental sickness.
Yeah.
Whereas like you definitely have people who look at gamblers as having that sickness also, but gambling I think is a lot more mainstream in the US than it is in Japan. Like Las Vegas, for example. Las Vegas is like easily one of the most popular places to go to in the US.
Yeah.
And that place is just known for gambling.
Yeah, right.
Right? That's like the primary reason you go to Vegas is just go gamble.
Yeah. I feel like, we were talking about how this kind of Japanese saving mentality is from maybe post-war stuff when there was not so many resources, I feel like, why is it that Americans get into debt so much and why do you spend so much? And I think it could come from, we were talking about in the last episode, maybe an entrepreneurial or frontiersman spirit where, you go into business, you work for yourself, you invest money to build something that will then, that mindset is much stronger, I think, over in the United States.
I agree.
So for me, I do not go into debt unless it's for my business because my business is an asset that will make more money for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into debt to buy a car.
Yeah.
I'll go into debt to make more money for my business.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of, maybe that's why in the States people are fine with debt a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then again, so many Americans are like drowning in debt and they can't make their payments.
It's really crazy how you kind of have these two like these two different versions of people in debt, because when you think of like rich people and specifically like business billionaires and millionaires, you don't think of them as people who go into debt, but that's actually not true. They go into debt all the time.
Yeah.
They just know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have that, but it's like at the same exact time, you have people. I was just recently talking with a coworker who was mentioning her student loans, and
is she American, Japanese?
She's American.
Okay,
right, and saying how it's like, oh yeah, well, I've just kind of accepted that I'm never just going to pay those off because they're so high.
Okay,
right, she's making payments, and it's like realistically, it's just going to take so long to pay those off that it's like she'll be paying for those forever, right? And I feel like a lot of Americans share that same mentality, where it's like, I have medical bills or I have student loans, and they're just so high that I'm just never gonna pay these off.
Yeah,
I just have to pay these the rest of my life.
Yeah, you have like a loan here, a loan there, maybe for a house, maybe for a car, and for school, and for all these other things, and it just adds another payment that you have to make.
Yeah, I'm going to paraphrase this statistic because I don't remember exactly what it was, but like the demographic of people 18 to 35, I think the average person is like $15,000 to $25,000 in debt.
Man.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. But then again, it goes back to what you're saying before, is that in the United States, people want to build their credit score. And so they want to seem responsible. So they want some debt.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the idea of going into debt for this like betterment of yourself is like this idea you're proving to a bank that you're financially
financially responsible.
No, it's not a responsibility thing. It's the bank will make money off of you. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
That's the whole reason credit score exists, because banks do not want a person who pays off their debt immediately.
Yeah.
They want a person who makes payments but doesn't pay it off quickly.
Because they get the interest,
Because they collect the interest. That's the whole reason credit score exists, right?
But but people, they're chasing, in the States, people are chasing these credit scores because having a good credit score can lead to a lower interest rate on your mortgage.
Yes.
So instead of like 7%, you get 6%.
Yeah, because you're considered not a risky person. The bank is looking like, okay, we'll make money off of you. So here's the loan.
Yeah. But in Japan, when housing interest rates are like 0.6% or something, it doesn't work out. It's so crazy. It's funny because, so talking about houses, because houses are like the biggest expense pretty much anyone makes in their entire life, right?
Yeah.
And in the States, people see housing as an investment, so they're willing to pay a high interest loan on that, like 7%, right? Well, now it's 7%, I think. But I remember in Japan, houses are depreciating assets. So I felt bad about getting, I've been looking at buying a house, and I would feel guilty about buying a house because I'm paying interest and spending so much money on a thing that's going to depreciate in value. And then when I looked at kind of the payment simulation, like let's say my house is going to be $800,000. Let's just say that. If I pay $100,000 up front, my monthly payment on my loan will be cheaper by 3万円 only. And I'm like thinking, wait, so then I should take that down payment and I should invest that, because I'm going to get more back from that by investing it, and I can pay the extra $300 a month, That's just like it's just, I don't know. So credit scores don't really matter here, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that you brought that up, because another thing that I think is really common here. I don't know houses too much, but I do know that people will usually buy used cars.
Okay.
Buying brand new cars is very uncommon here, right? And there's a reason for that. It's you have to pay sales tax every year on the car.
Okay.
So it's like buying a brand new car, you're going to be paying a lot higher tax than buying a used car.
Okay.
I think it probably has something to do with like some environmental thing, like whatever. But in the US, I think it's broadly speaking, like buying used versus buying new. Americans will almost always try to buy new if they can.
Well, so yeah, here's the thing. So I follow this guy named Dave Ramsey who is like anti-debt.
Yeah.
No matter what. So get a used car no matter what.
Yeah.
But seeing the other side of it, so the reason why a lot of Americans will buy a new car is because, first of all, they don't buy cars, they lease cars, which means they use cars for about 5 years and then they don't use it anymore. They pay X amount of dollars a month for 5 years to use it. And then they trade it in and they get another car. They do the same thing over and over and over, making payments forever.
Yeah.
And the car companies love that because they just rake in all the profit, right?
Yeah.
But these people who like to finance and lease their cars, they like it because I always get a new car. It's not going to break down. Or if it does break down, it's probably under warranty or something. I can get it fixed. It's a lot easier than a used car, which who knows, it might break down on you, you know?
Which is kind of funny because Americans very much love the DIY mentality.
Do it yourself. Yeah.
Like do it myself. Oh, I'm not going to hire a plumber. I'm going to try and fix it. Or, my car's broken. I'm going to try and fix it myself.
Yeah.
Whereas like Japan's like not about that at all. Like even if you need to change your oil, like people will go to a mechanic and have them change.
I was just watching a video of like this girl talking about how if we're driving on the highway and you need to change the tire and I need to call my dad because you can't do it, we're done. Like if you can't do basic car maintenance, we're done.
Oh, you're not a man in the US if you can't change the oil and change a tire on your car.
Yeah, right.
That's like literally step one of becoming a man in the US.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
it's crazy.
I had a friend who was really like that. So we practiced like changing the oil on my car. We changed the brakes on my car once. That was pretty cool.
That's
brake
a little bit
brake pads.
Oh.
It's not as scary as you think it is.
Okay.
Because it's literally just turn it, take them off, put them on, turn it back on again.
All right.
It just looks scary.
I mean, fair enough. I mean, I've never done it.
Dude, my car.
I did break them though.
You broke your brakes?
It's a long story. When I was in my 20s back in the military, I had a flat tire.
Okay.
And so I was changing my tire, and my car jack that I was using was not like a good car jack.
Okay.
It was a very like shady. I bought this off Amazon from a Chinese company.
Okay.
Car jack.
Okay.
And so
I know it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Bump the camera. So I was jacking up my car to try and get it lifted so I could replace the tire. So I got the tire off, but like when I nudged it, I nudged the car so it slid off the jack, and then the brake pad just smashed into the pavement and shattered.
Oh man!
And so it was like, shit.
That's terrifying, man.
So it was just like, God damn it. So I mean, I eventually got it towed and replaced, but yeah. So that's my experience with brake pads.
Man, you got to be careful with those car jacks, man.
Dude, yeah. So for those of you wanting to do DIY stuff with your car, get nice jacks.
Yeah, and
safe things.
You got to invest. Don't buy the cheap stuff. Buy the real stuff.
Yeah.
And that's actually, that's something that I'm starting to try to do more. Is I try to go with less until I can afford to buy a better quality thing. Yeah. Which, I don't know, this whole idea of like buy something because it's cheap. Because in the States, you do have buy it because it's cheap too. But I don't know.
I think we're kind of drawing to a close. But one other thing that I really wanted to just briefly talk about as far as like spending money and just money related stuff. The idea of like date night or like going out and doing some social thing is I think a really integral part of American culture.
Yeah, date night with the wife.
Yeah, date night with the wife, or like we call it like hanging out with the boys.
Yeah,
going to the movies. Going and spending money during the week on some like social event.
Yeah,
is like a really integral part of American culture. Even going like driving right? So it's like going out and like purpose for the specific purpose of spending money and having fun. Whereas I think in Japan, it's like, it's not like people don't do that, but it's not like integral to their daily life.
Yeah, it's like a weekly thing in America.
Yeah.
You know, every week you need to do something.
And it's like you'll see people go out to the izakaya. Like it's really common for men to go out and drink, after work and stuff here in Japan, but it's not like I would say it's not like really tied to the identity of the culture here as much as it is with the US.
Yeah, it's like you're not a good husband if you don't take your wife out on date night in the States.
Yeah.
You don't do that? Like, at
it's
least
like
once every 2 weeks?
you guys got to go out to a restaurant.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, go out and do something nice for, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or like, Americans go to the movies. Like, I would say most Americans go to the movies at least once every 2 weeks, if not once a week.
Really? To the movies?
Yeah, to the movies. You don't think so?
No, well, like a movie ticket's like $20 now, man.
Oh, maybe nowadays.
Yeah, so back when I was younger, we would go to the movies like once a month.
$5 or $10. Like,
yeah. Now it's like it's just too expensive. So
that's fair.
Yeah, but it is this kind of thing of, hey, you know what? We're just gonna go out, spend some money, have a good time. Let's have fun. Even if we have a ton of debt, we're still gonna be doing this.
I mean that's another big thing is like even poor Americans do this, right? So I think. Like going back to what I said in the beginning of the episode where it's like a lot of Japanese people see Americans coming over here and like they're not necessarily financially responsible, at least from the outside view of a Japanese person looking at them. It's like, well, that might be true. But that it's also a different cultural thing.
Yeah, they have more fun. They're different values,
It's definitely different values.
No.
But anyways.
This was a good place to end.
Yeah.
And this is our second episode in a row, and I'm
You're feeling it?
I'm feeling it. So I'll see you next time.
See you, man.
Alright, 最後までご覧いただきありがとうございます。英語を実際に話せたらこういう会話もできたらいいなと思う方が多いのですが、問題があります。英語の文法、フレーズをたくさん学ぶのに、いきなり外国人の対面して話す機会があっても、頭が真っ白になって言葉が出てこないっていう問題です。英語の知識を増やすだけではなく、生の場面で実際に話せる能力を身につける方法が必要です。そのために僕は世界とつながるメソッドを開発して、なるべく多くの方に広めていきたいと思います。で、その世界とつながるメソッドの詳細はこちらからご覧ください。As always, enjoy your English adventures. これからも一緒に世界とつながりましょう。See you next time!